Today, I want to help you supercharge your vocabulary by learning many different collocations, which are words that are frequently used together. And when you use them in conversation, it's just going to help you sound more natural. So in this lesson, I'm going to teach you over 50 different collocations ranging from levels B2 to C2. So the phrases that we're going to look at are more upper intermediate to advanced. Now, I'm not going to lie to you. Building your vocabulary is something that may take a considerable amount of time, but learning collocations can be somewhat of a shortcut. So let's begin with some B2 collocations and with a word that I've already mentioned, considerable. This is an adjective that means very large or much, and there are some great adjective noun collocations, such as a considerable amount of something. Previously, I mentioned a considerable amount of time, or you could say that you're making a considerable difference, or you're making considerable progress, or you have considerable influence over someone. And this collocation, you may follow it with that preposition over.
Besides, we have to do a considerable amount of paperwork.
But you might go back and use your considerable influence and ask your cabinet colleagues if they might reconsider.
And I am confident that learning collocations will make a considerable difference in building your vocabulary. And if that is what you'd like to do, please subscribe, turn on notifications. That way I can become your teacher. My name is Wes. The channel is Interactive English. It's all about trying to help you reach your fluency goals. And if you follow my video lessons, I think that you will make considerable progress. Okay, see how just natural that sounds? Let's continue with our next set of collocations that have the noun feedback. So this is information or statements of opinion about something, such as a product, and saying whether it's successful or liked. So you may give feedback, or provide feedback, or even offer feedback. And give, provide, and offer, those are really synonyms. You may also get feedback as well as receive feedback. And once again, get and receive, those are synonyms. And this may seem simple, but this is when I hear people make mistakes and they may say tell feedback instead of give feedback. So these are some great verb noun collocations. There are also some very common adjective noun collocations because I think overwhelmingly people may talk about positive feedback or negative feedback. Of course, getting feedback is extremely important when it comes to improving your English skills. And a great way to receive feedback is to take lessons. And that's why I want to talk to you about Cambly, who is the sponsor of today's lesson. Cambly is an online platform for English learners, and they just launched new group lessons. And I was selected to test out the launch, and I really enjoyed the class because all of the lessons have a specific curriculum to help guide students through the conversation.
The agenda of a group lesson is to make everybody speak. So the more you speak, the better.
So the group lessons are 1 hour long classes with a native tutor, you and a couple of other students, which is a great opportunity to connect with students from other countries and have real life conversations.
So this is the topic. It can be a recent or favorite holiday, celebrating birthdays and a new year. Elodie, I will start with you.
How we go for recent or favorite holiday?
These are daily conversations that you might have with a friend, a colleague, or even a family member, but you get to have fun and share things about your country, your culture, or even your community.
It's like, oh, today I had a horrible lunch. I just had a sandwich.
Is there like a stigma on that if somebody had a sandwich, or is it's not a big deal, or people
Every mom and aunt would be like, shame on you. You didn't prepare your lunch. What's going on?
Right now, with the launch of group lessons, Cambly is offering an exclusive price just for you, but it's only valid for 1 week. So click on the link in the description to take some group lessons and improve your English fluency. The discount is also valid for one-on-one Cambly lessons. And after 1 week, you can still use the link to get a free trial if you'd like to test out Cambly in order to practice and improve your English, which is what it's all about. Let's continue with many more collocations. The next word that I want to look at is deeply. we're going to mix it up with an adverb. So deeply means extremely or strongly, and it is a great way to add emphasis. So there are some adverb-adjective collocations that, well, may have a positive connotation or a negative connotation. Let's start with the negative. You may say that you are deeply worried about something or deeply concerned about something. So either of those collocations you may follow with that preposition about. You could also refer to something or someone as deeply flawed. So in this case, you may be talking about a deeply flawed plan or maybe a deeply flawed individual.
I'm deeply worried about aging.
The U.S. is deeply concerned about an escalating conflict that will not end well for either side.
He's deeply flawed, and somehow, some way, we raised a child.
For those that may be a bit more positive, if you're apologizing, you could say that you are deeply sorry. Or maybe you were deeply moved by something and it just affected you emotionally, and you're going to follow this with by. Or you could say that you are deeply in love.
And he is deeply sorry.
I told him that I was deeply moved by his statement.
I was in love with her and she was in love with me. We were so deeply in love.
Then we have the word controversial, and I have two different sets of collocations with this noun, which means causing disagreement or discussion. So let's start with some adjective noun collocations. Maybe you're going to debate a controversial issue, or say that someone made a controversial decision. Or if you're talking about a person, you could say, well, this person is a controversial figure. And I'm sure right now you can think of someone who you would refer to as a controversial figure, and they're really causing disagreement. And then there are some common adverb-adjective collocations if you want to say someone or something is extremely controversial or highly controversial. And we can build on top of this and say that someone is a highly controversial figure. And now we're using them all together. Can you think of someone who you would consider a highly controversial figure? Let me know down in the comments. Then we have the word wisdom, which means using knowledge or experience to make good decisions. And there are only two collocations that I want to look at. The first one is an adjective noun collocation, which is conventional wisdom. And in this case, the meaning changes slightly. So if we're talking about conventional wisdom, it refers to opinions or theories that have existed for a long time and that most people agree with. And this is a common collocation, conventional wisdom.
Conventional wisdom suggests that our next move is to resume hostilities. To fight.
Well, conventional wisdom says good fleeing will always beat good chasing. But the stats say, put your money on the guy with the gun.
I have another adjective noun collocation, except this time wisdom is the adjective. And I'm talking about a wisdom tooth or wisdom teeth. So this is the last tooth to come in at the back of each side of your upper and lower jaw. And often you may have to get, well, this tooth or even the teeth removed, your wisdom tooth or wisdom teeth.
Dental emergency? I'm getting my wisdom teeth pulled.
And count up all of the extra painkillers that I had left over from my wisdom tooth surgery.
Let's move on to some C1 words and some of those common collocations, and we'll begin with the verb call. So this is a verb that has, well, multiple meanings, but in this case we're talking about arranging for something to happen, such as a particular event, and usually something official. And there are some great verb-noun collocations, such as to call a meeting, or more specifically, to call an emergency meeting. And you could also call for something, and we're going to follow the verb with for. And I have a few different examples. You could call for a strike, or call for an election, or call for a halt to something. Those are some great collocations with this verb. Next is the word tedious. It's a word that I don't really like the meaning of it, but I like using it because it's very descriptive. It's an adjective that means boring or uninteresting. So we can use this to describe some specific nouns, and those are the collocations. You might talk about a tedious job, or tedious work, or even a tedious task. So once again, job, work, task, they're similar, they're synonyms, but great nouns to use with this adjective.
Jury selection is tedious work.
It's the only way to get through yet another tedious and useless task.
And then let's throw in a phrasal verb. Why not? Bubble over. And we're going to follow the phrasal verb with the word with, to bubble over with something. It means to be very excited or enthusiastic. And there are some great phrasal verb noun collocations, such as to bubble over with excitement, or to bubble over with enthusiasm, or even to bubble over with emotion. And hopefully it makes it a little easier to grasp these collocations, because excitement, enthusiasm, emotion, once again, they're really synonyms. I am bubbling over with excitement to continue teaching you more collocations with the next word, which is burning. And no, I'm not talking about fire. This word has a couple of different meanings, and I want to talk to you about collocations with each. So the first meaning would refer to something that is very strong. And there are some great adjective noun collocations like a burning desire, or a burning ambition. So it's a great way to add emphasis.
Firefighters have a passion for their work. Arsonists just have a burning desire.
Is that even a joke?
Yeah, it's a wordplay or a parody.
The next meaning is a subject or question that must be dealt with or answered quickly. And there are also a couple adjective noun collocations with this meaning. Maybe you're talking about a burning issue, or even a burning question. So again, we're really adding emphasis, because we're not talking about a normal question, we're talking about a burning question.
Look like a boy with a burning question, one that my tarot cards can answer better than any book.
Then we have the verb capture, and the meaning that we're going to talk about is to feel interested or excited by something. And there are a few different verb noun collocations, such as to capture the imagination, or to capture the attention, or to capture the interest. And you could follow each of these collocations with the word of, to capture the imagination of someone. We could also put a pronoun between the verb and the noun. I could say that, well, someone's trying to capture the audience's attention, or something captured my imagination. And I hope that this lesson has captured your interest. And if it has, and you've learned something new, you can let me know by hitting that like button. Let's continue with some C2 words, which are a little more advanced, and we'll talk about some of those collocations, and we'll begin with the word underlying. This means that something is real, but it's not immediately obvious. I have several adjective noun collocations, like an underlying cause or an underlying condition. And these you may hear somebody use medically. Perhaps a doctor may talk about an underlying condition or the underlying cause of some illness.
As of right now, the mortality rate is fluctuating between 25 and 30%, depending upon underlying medical conditions.
You could also say that something is the underlying principle, or perhaps an underlying motivation. Maybe you want to improve your English for more work opportunities, but perhaps you also maybe want to date someone and have the relationship in English, and you could say that maybe that is an underlying motivation. It's real, but it's not obvious. Next is the word framework. We're talking about a system of rules, ideas, or beliefs that is used to decide something. And you may hear people use this word with a few different adjective noun collocations, talking about a legal framework, or a regulatory framework, or even a theoretical framework. Then there's the word expenditure, which refers to the total amount of money a government, organization, or even a person spends. And a few different adjective noun collocations include government expenditure, or annual expenditure, or even personal expenditure. We also have a couple of verb noun collocations, such as to cut expenditure, or even to reduce expenditure, something that I think many businesses try to do.
With current and projected deficits, we need to cut expenditures by 32%.
Then we have the word literal. It refers to a word's original or basic meaning. And there are a few different adjective-noun collocations that I want to share with you. You may talk about the literal meaning of something, or perhaps the literal interpretation, or even use it in the phrase in a literal sense.
Look, what's an M7G677?
A black hole.
In what sense?
In a literal sense.
And then finite. I don't know why I said it like that. Finite. This adjective means having a limit or end. And a few different adjective-noun collocations with this word include finite resources, or a finite number, or a finite amount. Those are some great phrases with this word. We just learned a lot of different collocations, and I do not expect you to remember all of these. I think you're probably already familiar with many of these words, but it's all about recognizing which words are frequently used together. That's what collocations are. And your brain is going to start recognizing that pattern so that when you're having a conversation, you're just going to end up using the words together and you'll sound a lot more natural. If you enjoyed the lesson and learned something new, please hit that like button. As always, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time. So long.